IVM.
The reDiscovery podcast is an IVM production. If you like this show, also check out Geek Fruit, a show with fellow television geeks, Tejas, Jishnu and Dinkar, as they discuss the world of science fiction and nerd culture.
You're listening to Season 4 of the reDiscovery podcast. This season, we get a glimpse into the travel lifestyle of our hosts, Ambika and Hoshna, as they talk about quitting their jobs to travel, their most rewarding travel experiences, their favorite homestays, traveling around Bombay, and also traveling to unconventional places like Bihar. This is the reDiscovery podcast, Season 4.
Hi, I'm Ambika.
And I'm Hoshna.
And this is the reDiscovery podcast. So on this episode, we're going to talk about a very unconventional off the beaten track place
to travel.
Our whole episode is dedicated to Bihar, which yes, it is Bihar.
Yeah, I mean, when we told people our next trip is Bihar, people always ask us, where are you going? So we're like, Bihar. Like, why would anyone go to Bihar?
Yeah, you have to see like faces. I'm sure you are kind of got the same expression. And we do travel to random places. I mean, I think when we went to MP also, people were like, MP mein kya hai? You know, at this tigers, but uske alawa kya hai? And then when we went to UP, they were like, oh, UP is like so unsafe, or Nagaland. So yes, we do like to go to these like random places. And Bihar, I think we had this very strong reaction, like a negative.
Strongest.
Yeah, but I think that sort of propelled us also a little bit.
Like,
let's go and
don't
see.
Travel at night.
Don't travel at night anywhere, no?
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, so that was kind of also what propelled us to go to places. And Bihar. So when we did our UP leg, at the end of that leg, we were very close to the Bihar border from UP. So we were like, you know what, let's just hop over and go to Bodh Gaya and check
Bodh
it out.
Gaya was a place we wanted to check out. I mean, we didn't have any plans at that time to actually go to Bihar. We just wanted to go and check out Bodh Gaya.
Yeah, and I mean, Bodh Gaya is very famous. Even if some people forget, I think, that Bodh Gaya is in Bihar. But Bodh Gaya is the cradle of Buddhism in the world, and it's a very important spot for Buddhist pilgrims. So one sort of disassociates Bihar from Bodh Gaya. And so we got there, but we were at the end of the UP leg, and it was like April, and it was really hot, and we spent a couple of days, and we didn't quite enjoy it. We didn't get into it.
Yeah, we really liked the place, but it, like Ambika said, it was so hot, and it was...
I think we were tired also. We'd been traveling for a while.
At the end of the season for Bodh Gaya, I guess.
Most
people come in the winter, so it was very dead.
And then, so we were like, this is cool. We must come back at a time and we can really like get into the place.
Yeah.
And so we decided, let's see what else is going on in Bihar, because there is Bodh Gaya, it is the cradle of Buddhism, and there's lots of other Buddhist stuff going on.
Yeah, I think what we realize is that Bihar is generally the cradle of Buddhism in a lot of ways.
Right.
Which I don't think anybody realizes. And frankly, outside the main Buddhist sites, you don't see Buddhism like on the streets in Bihar. It doesn't seem like a Buddhist place, but it's got so much Buddhist history associated with it.
Yeah, and also for me, I mean, my aunt is an artist, and she was like, oh, you're going to Bihar, you must go and check out the Madhubani paintings. And I was like, oh yeah, that's also from Bihar, which, I mean, I've seen the Madhubani paintings in parts of the country, and she's drawn some, and so we have them at home. But I was like, yes, that's another thing one doesn't really associate with Bihar. So there was all these little things that we wanted to explore. So we packed our bags and went to Bihar.
Yeah, so I think, our first stop in Bihar was actually Patna, because Patna is...
Because you have to fly into Patna.
You have to fly into Patna, and it's a really convenient place to base yourself if you want to go to Bihar, because Madhubani is in the north, Bodh Gaya is in the south. If you want to go to there are places in the east also you can visit, so it's very centrally sort of located. And Patna, I mean, while it's just like any other large or semi-large city, it's...
we didn't really have very high expectations of Patna. We were like, oh, it's going to be like gross or something. But I think we were quite pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I mean, it's a place where you can definitely spend a couple of days to sort of acquaint yourself with Bihar.
Yeah, and there are some things to do which is will keep you occupied.
Yeah, so there's this, there's the Buddha Park there, which is this very large, beautiful green space opened in the center of the city.
The lawns are just stunning, and they've got this monument right in the middle, and then they have the museum where they sort of go through the entire life of the
Yeah,
Buddha.
it's a very well
It's
laid out modern
fantastic,
museum.
yeah.
Actually, Patna has a couple of really good museums as well.
Yeah, yes.
The New State Museum is very nice.
There's lots of art and things. But I realized when we were in the Buddha Museum over there is that some of these smaller cities across India actually have some fantastic museums. I mean, we really like the ones that we saw in Bhopal, for example. And so this one's really well laid out. I mean, it's very interactive. So there's like visual stuff, and there's pictures, and then there's videos and everything.
It's
so
not like those old, dusty Marahua museums you typically find in a lot of places in India. But this
what
is
you might
very
expect.
Very international standard.
And really like easy to understand also what's going on. So we really like the Buddha
Engaging.
Museum. And then there's this massive lawn where you can hang out and spend some time. And for being in the heart of Patna, it was very cool and very green. So we really like that. And I mean, if you find yourself in Patna, definitely go and visit the Buddha Museum. And then there's the other national, or I think it's the State Museum, which has got some interesting like historical artifacts, and then it tells you a little bit about the history of Bihar, and
Again,
then
a lot
there's
of Buddhist stuff, a lot of Madhubani related stuff in that museum as well.
and then there's a little bit of other cool history associated with Bihar as well. The Sikh community had come there. You had like Jainism is also spread over there, so they tell you a little bit about all of that stuff. And then there's one big wall with a Madhubani painting on it. So I mean, and then there's the other thing which I think Patna is very famous for is the litti chokha, which is a thing you eat, which Amir Khan made very famous. I think he was in Patna shooting for something, or I really don't know why he was in Patna, but he ate litti chokha in one of the stalls.
And now apparently he's eaten at every stall.
Yeah, so every
Patna.
litti chokha
Every stall has a photo of Amir Khan on it.
eating it, right? So we were like, okay, well, we must also try, and it's quite a nice
yeah, it's nice. It's
snack,
interesting. We had it 2-3 times actually.
Yeah, it's a roadside snacks, like 20 rupees for a plate. So there's lots of like little things that you can do in Patna. But I think for us, the highlight really was the Khuda Bakhsh Oriental Library.
Yeah, I mean, we just found this place online, so we thought we'll check it out. It's like some like little gullies in Patna. And it's a really interesting old place. It's opened in 1891, and it basically houses...
And it was opened to the public in 1891. Yeah, it's much older
before that,
than
it was
that.
a private collection of books by... Khuda Bakhsh, who was a important man back in the day. I think it was his father's collection, actually.
Yeah.
And it's got like a really extensive collection of old books and, Arabic manuscripts, Persian manuscripts, books that survived the sacking of Moorish library in Cordoba. So, and I mean, you have to go there and, catch hold of the librarian, and he'll take you into a separate room and show you all these things. I mean, there are small miniature paintings which have writings of Mughal emperors on them, notes that they've made.
Personal writings, their own writings.
Yeah.
Then there's like this stunning Qurans in like blue and gold. There is the Timur Nama and the Shah Nama and
like
lot
stuff
of
you
like
won't see anywhere else.
and originals
first edition copies.
First edition. I think then they were the only editions,
Maybe,
for some of them. And then we asked, Hoshna was like, he said, do you have any Zoroastrian texts? And then the guy was like, yeah, we have. And then he pulled something out.
Yeah, it was like this really obscure looking thing, and this guy, he spoke.
And he's asking Hoshna, can you read it? And he's like, yeah, no.
And he spoke Arabic and Persian
and Urdu and Hindi.
And he couldn't read it.
Yeah.
So it was that obscure.
But it's really very cool, and I think there's like several thousand books that he has, and you can, a lot of them are on display. You can go, but then there's some stuff which they've kept very well preserved in these rooms with humidifiers and stuff.
Yeah.
And so to see those, you have to seek special permission beforehand.
And you can actually, I mean, if you're more interested in research in this kind of thing, you can actually write to the institute. They'll send you copies of the manuscripts they have if you want a particular manuscript and stuff like that. So it's very well organized as well. And they also have a sword of Nadir Shah there.
Yes.
Which was really cool, I thought.
Yeah. So, I mean, a really amazing, what was once a private and now open to the public collection.
I don't think too many people visited, so it's really interesting to check out if you are interested in this kind of stuff, which we were.
which I think you should be. I mean,
Yeah.
like, just to see,
Please be interested in it.
yeah, just to see some of this old stuff. So that's what's happening in Patna. I think what a lot of people, and what we also didn't realize till we started doing some of this research, is that Bihar is home to 2 UNESCO sites. So that's the Mahabodhi temple, which is in Bodh Gaya, and the Nalanda University, which is very
Nalanda
old
University,
and famous.
everybody, I guess, knows about. And everyone's seen it in their school textbooks.
Yes.
And so it was, we went and we checked that out. We checked out another couple of interesting Buddhist sites. But Nalanda is really magical. It's a really nice place to walk around because you've seen that 1 or 2 photos of it in your history textbooks. And to see that in front of you is something really cool.
It's really well preserved.
Yeah,
I think that's what was most impressive. It's a UNESCO site. So most of the UNESCO sites that we have seen across India, and we've seen quite a lot of them actually, they're all really well maintained. But this one, I think it was a little bit special because one had seen it in, like Hoshna said, textbooks and stuff. And there's a little museum also, ASI museum attached. So it gives you a little bit of the history of Nalanda, all the cool people who came from different parts of the world to Nalanda to study or to teach. Some Chinese guy and some Chinese guy. I'm sorry, I cannot remember his name. And then from other parts so yeah. And then there is the other UNESCO site, which is Bodh Gaya, which is, I think, much more famous for many reasons. And Bodh Gaya is very close to Patna, so you can just drive down from Patna, or you can take a bus, or you can take a train from Patna to Gaya, which is the nearest train station.
Yeah,
and then
I think the first time we went, we took the train to Gaya.
Yeah, we were coming from somewhere in UP.
Yeah, and we reached at like 9 in the night. And I think we were a little uncomfortable. Ambika said, what's the big deal?
No, I think even I was a little uncomfortable. I was not uncomfortable in UP, but I was a little bit taking a auto.
And Bodh Gaya is about, I think, 13-14 kilometers from Gaya. So you have to take about a 40-minute auto ride if you come by train from there. And this was at 9:30 in the night. Our first experience in Bihar, so to speak. So obviously we were also a little concerned, safety.
And we asked some of the other passengers who were going to get off the train if what kind of transport they were taking, and somebody already had a car booked, and so we're like, okay, we'll just take an auto. And we got out of the train station, and obviously there's all these auto guys, and they were like, kahan jana hai? And we said, Bodh Gaya. And the one guy, we settled with him and we got on, and it was a very normal auto ride. Like, we could have been anywhere, going from like Andheri to Borivali, for example, without all the potholes.
Some strange auto rides in the night in UP and Bihar, actually.
And they've all been very fine. The guy was very chatty. He was like, welcome to Bihar. We are going to a nice place.
So there is obviously a perception that Bihar is unsafe. And I think it was still maybe a few years ago. But in the recent past, a lot of people live in Patna who we met also told us that, yes, you couldn't walk around and move around so freely maybe in the evening or the night as you can now. But we never experienced anything untoward in our time there. And I think it's much, much, much safer than it was earlier. You need to obviously take the basic precautions as you would when you're traveling anywhere.
Right.
But outside of that, it's like anywhere else right now.
And apparently, because the Gaya to Bodh Gaya stretch is quite a lot of tourists, because you have Buddhist tourists coming from all over the world to Bodh Gaya. Now it's it's like you'll see everybody plying those roads, and it's quite safe. So you get to this UNESCO World Heritage Site of Bodh Gaya, and the Mahabodhi temple and temple complex is sort of like the epicenter of Bodh
but the whole
Gaya.
Town is sort of built around that, and that town itself is
very lovely.
Nice.
Yeah,
I mean, especially in those months of November, December, Jan, when the weather is cool and you'll have monks
which is the recommended time to visit.
You must go in winters, and you have monks coming from all over the world to pay their respects at the temple, and it's really fantastic because that place is, you don't feel like you're in Bihar or in India for that matter.
I think you could be. I mean, at some points you could be anywhere because there are people from. I mean, you name any Buddhist country, right? Like China or Japan
Cambodia,
or
all of Southeast Asia.
Sri Lanka, and parts of India also, and they've all got like their robes on, and in the Mahabodhi temple they are doing all of their prayers and their rituals, and many of them come for like weeks and weeks because they do like 100 days of prayers, and it has this very magical feel,
very nice
about
vibe,
it.
very peaceful feeling, and very international feeling also, again in the middle of Bihar, so
because
very strange.
You'll be hearing all kinds of languages, and the best part about the fact that all these tourists are coming from all over the Buddhist world, as well as other parts of the world, to see this important temple, is that there is some really cool food to eat in Bodh Gaya.
Probably the best food in Bihar is in Bodh Gaya.
Yeah.
Not in Patna for sure.
Well, other than the litti chokha.
Other than the litti, there's nothing really worth eating in Patna.
But yeah, I mean, there is, and very authentic, like there's Chinese restaurants, there's Japanese restaurants, there's Thai food, there's like Sri Lankan food.
There's nice cafes, you'll get your...
green tea.
There was a guy who was doing sushi like a Japanese restaurant.
Yeah,
there.
he was a Japanese guy, and he had opened this little restaurant. And if you gave your order a little bit in advance, he would then roll and make you like homemade sushi. And so
there were great pastas. I mean, there were desserts.
Yeah, but I mean, I would go to eat like all this authentic Thai food and the Japanese. And what all these countries have also done in Bodh Gaya is set up their own little temples and little spaces for either their visiting dignitaries to stay in and stuff.
Yeah, so
and
there are lots of monasteries around the place.
Visit their complexes.
There's a Thai temple, a Cambodian temple,
everybody's temple.
Everybody, yeah.
There's a
Korean
Burmese
temple.
There's a Sri Lankan temple. I think the Chinese also
there's a
have
Mongolian
a temple.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, everybody's got a temple over there, and I mean, depending, I guess, the size
and
of
good
their.
Thai food.
There's a Sikkimese temple also where the government can come and stay, and they have like. All these temples you can visit, and it kind of is cool because you see a little bit of their culture in the Buddhism. So the Thai temple, the setup, the design is a little bit different from like the Japanese temple, which is different from like the Sri Lankan temple.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, if you're in Bodh Gaya at the right time in the winters, you may also have a chance to spot the Dalai Lama because he travels there
every year,
usually end December, early Jan. So that's another very cool thing.
Yeah, and he gives like lectures and stuff, so you can plan your trip around that. And I mean, to see more, we did a very cool like guide for on Bodh Gaya, which is on CNT website. It's also, so you can check that out, and it's really helpful to plan your trip. We also have a couple of photo
stories up on our own blog, so you can check that out if you want to get a feel of what it's like.
Yeah, and I mean, it's you can spend like, I think we were there for 4-5 days, and you just walk around, and it's a really cool place.
Yeah, we were there, I think, every day in the temple. Ambika spent a couple of mornings volunteering with a Tibetan family there who feeds the monks.
Yeah, they come every year, and because the monks are there for weeks on end, it kind of becomes expensive. So
and they're there the whole day. They literally don't leave the temple till evening.
So they eat food that is prepared by others. And you can go and do that. You can help out, and I mean, you could just like sit in the temple, do your prayers or meditate or like look at the beautiful sky and stuff. So on that note, we're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, it's another awesome week on IVM Podcast. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. This week on Cyrus Says, Cyrus talks to journalist Rachel Lopez about her Taxi Ceiling art series and her own podcast, Wordy Woodpecker, available only on the IVM network. On Simplified, Chuck, Naren, and Shrika deconstruct the latest UN report on climate change and why the next 2 decades might be the most important for the Earth. On the latest special episode of Paisa Vaisa, Anupam talks to Hansi Malhotra, an investment professional and owner of the financial blog, themoneyhunts.com. On Shunya One, Sheila Ditya and I speak to Arpit Ratan, co-founder of SignZ, a fintech company that makes regulatory processes for bank and other financial institutions simple, secure, and compliant. On the Kinetic Living podcast, Coach Urmi talks to childhood buddy and actor Shikat Alsania. She elaborates on her fitness journey and how she balances work, diet, and the need to stay fit. And just a reminder, guys, please tell a friend. You need to tell a friend that you're listening to a podcast that you like and get them to listen to the podcast that you think they will like. And with that, let's take you on with your show.
Welcome back to the reDiscovery podcast. So besides Bodh Gaya, if you're really interested in Buddhism, there are a number of other sites. There's Bodh Gaya, there's of course Nalanda, there's the Kesariya Stupa.
The Vaishali Stupa.
There's the Vaishali Stupa.
All of which are like old and very large stupas. Some of the largest stupas in the Buddhist world are in Bihar, and all of these are accessible from Patna. So like Hoshna said, you can make Patna your base and make like day trips, hire a car and visit all of these places. And if you've had a little bit too much of old Buddhist monasteries and sites, then I mean, you could do what for me was another highlight of Bihar, which is go and check out the Madhubani paintings.
I think that's, for both of us, it was pretty much a highlight. Bodh Gaya and the Madhubani paintings were two fantastic parts of Bihar.
Yeah.
So Madhubani is, I think, about 200 kilometers north of Patna.
Which sounds small, but it's actually in Bihar a very long travel time.
Yeah, so it's 200 kilometers away, which isn't that far, but it took us 7 hours in a train to get there. And this was not a delayed train. This
No, this was right time.
Correct time, 7 hours. And you're like, 200 kilometers, you go by road. Road takes like 5-6 hours. So it's not much better. And there was no good reason for it taking this long. It was very strange.
No, the train took forever because it took a very circuitous route. And we were like, train is good. We love traveling by train, But there aren't a lot of train tracks in Bihar yet. Despite
I think why safety is sort of been taken care of. I think these things still, infrastructure still needs some improvement.
A lot of improvement, yeah. But I think they're working on it.
The road to Bodh Gaya also from Patna is pretty much a single lane highway.
Yeah, which you
can see on the east they're building a new road which will be like a proper 4, 5, 6 whatever lane highway. But right now it's still that one single road.
So they're doing some stuff, but yeah, there's not a lot of train tracks in Bihar, so you have to take the circuitous route. So if you can, just hire a car and go to Madhubani. And Madhubani paintings, now if you've seen them, they're very like funky and cool looking paintings. And what one doesn't realize, which we realized once we got there, is that they're very intricate and detailed. So to make a Madhubani painting takes like hours and hours and hours, because they're all done by hand.
Also.
Yeah. There's different styles, and so you get to Madhubani, which is the region, and then there's all these little villages that you can visit.
Yeah, you can stay in Madhubani town,
which is the main.
Yeah, so
I think the only place you can really stay.
Yeah, we got there by train, and the first sight to get off Madhubani is when you get off that train station and the whole train station is painted.
Yeah, it's the most beautiful train station in India. The entire station
end to end is painted.
Yeah.
There are hundreds of paintings on the walls, outside, inside. And this was very recent. It was, I think, in October of 2017 when they inaugurated the new station
so about
with
a year
paintings.
Ago. And that was a really cool initiative, I think, of the government to sort of, it's a way to advertise this really cool old art form.
Yeah.
Also, you can make your station pretty, which if you've been to like all these little stations around India, they are not very nice looking. I'm trying to yeah, so that's, and all the artists over there got together and this is what they've done. And some of those artists are the ones that have painted the wall in the museum in Patna as well.
Correct.
So you can go and check out the painting.
So you base yourself in Madhubani town, and there are a couple of villages around which you can travel to and these are literally art villages where every home will have an artist, and the walls of the villages are painted. You can walk into pretty much any home and they'll all be very happy to show you their work. And it's amazing also because of the range of different types of paintings you'll see there. And if you really like art, this is a wonderful place to pick some up.
Yes.
Because you get to support the artist directly in their home, which means they get all the money.
Correct.
And it's incredibly reasonable compared to if you were to buy the same piece in the city, which will probably be 10 times as expensive.
Or something. Yeah. And it's nice because, you've bought something that you're understanding, so they'll explain to you what's happening in the painting, and then it makes it all the more special because you know the story behind it. And we met all these different artists and some really old artists who have, they sort of tell you how the art form has evolved over the last few decades. And this one very cool old lady whom we met, she has been to parts of the world, to Japan and to Germany and other parts.
Yeah, the Japanese are very big on this Madhubani.
Yeah. There's a whole institute and museum of Madhubani paintings in Japan.
Yeah.
And so that's really cool. And she was like, I've been there so many times, and she's done all this artwork for them.
Yeah,
and
her art is all over the world.
And it was a very cool experience,
and
talking to her.
Obviously came from a generation of women who probably didn't step out of the house that much in that day and age, and she's been a sort of a trendsetter or a path breaker for these people because she's traveled all around the world. She's taken her art all around the world, and Madhubani art came from a space where earlier it was never on canvas. It always used to be on people's walls. It was done at times of marriage. It showed stories of nature and also had
some of the epics,
ritualistic meanings. And from that conversion from a very home art done on people's walls, associated with special events, I guess, in life, to going on to canvas and then taking it to places across the world is a huge transition.
Yeah.
And she sort of led the way for so many other women getting into the art.
So that was really cool. I mean, meeting her. And what is nice is that the art here has also evolved, right? Like Hosha was saying, it was on the walls of homes. Now it's on canvas. And now some of the younger artists who are learning. So there's the Mithila Art Institute, which is in Madhubani town. And it's run with the help of the Ethnic Arts Foundation from California. And every alternate year, they select 30 students where the younger generation can learn about the art, the details, the intricacies of it. And it's now become a very legitimate means of livelihood. And so a lot of the younger people that we met are sort of taking the art to the next level, right? They're using it for like social messaging, for example.
So
to
there was
talk
an artist
about
we met who was doing paintings on climate change.
Yeah, so important. And there were some paintings we saw where they were talking about against dowry, and these are important messages. And from like small villages in Bihar to have artists talk about these things was quite impressive also. And
so the two villages you can go to, I don't think we mentioned that earlier, are Rati and Jitwarpur.
Both outside of Madhubani town.
Both are within, I think, an hour of Madhubani town. So, I mean, they're both in different directions, I think. So, you can't go on the same day, probably. So, it's best if you spend a couple of days in Madhubani and maybe do Rati on one day and Jitwarpur on the other. Both, again, have different sort of paintings and styles, which is, again, very interesting.
Yeah.
Jitwarpur is a lot more earthy. I think the artists there probably come from a slightly more poor background.
Yes.
And Rati is a more cultural sort of art form. So the styles are very different. The intricacy of the work is different. The themes are different. The colors are different.
Very different. And both these villages and other parts also, you'll see on the walls of homes now, there's still a lot of art. So the villages also are like our little museums in themselves, and because of the Mithila Art Institute and other initiatives by the government and NGOs now, there's lots of artists. And it's becoming a good means of livelihood for people. So you can spend the whole day in these villages, going from home to home, chatting with people, like learning about the art, trying it. It's quite difficult. It's quite difficult. And yeah, so that's a really cool, like, little microcosm of something that's going on in Bihar. So, I mean, Bihar was difficult. I think we had some stresses as to, because the infrastructure, like Hosha said, is not that great. There's only one train that's going somewhere. The buses
Madhubani,
are
there are only like two hotels. Out of which one is not so good and one is bad.
So you have to stay in the not so good one. It was not like a bad hotel. It was clean and the food was edible and stuff. But the infrastructure needs a lot of improvement. But, I mean, it's really a cool place to visit.
Yeah, and with all the bad and not so good hotels, you'll find in Madhubani there are tourists from all over the world.
Yeah.
Not so much from
Indians.
India.
No.
From all over the world.
And that's what the hotel guy was also telling us, which is kind of a little bit sad, in a way that we're not really exploring so much of what's happening in our own country. But maybe this will propel you guys to go and check out something. And I mean, Bihar is like that, right? I mean, development is happening, so cool places to visit. Madhubani and Bodh Gaya are definitely the top places, and like Hoshna mentioned, there's lots of other things. There's the stupas of Vaishali and Kesaria, which I think he once mentioned that it reminded him of like Borobudur in Indonesia. I've never been.
Kesaria is actually it's the largest Buddhist stupa in the world.
Oh,
which,
right.
Again, a lot of people don't know. And it's still being excavated by the ASI. So the ASI is so low on funds. So they do like 6 months, 8 months of work and they say, Abhi sir, our budget khatam ho gaya, to next year karenge wapas. So it's a sad situation to that extent. But I mean, it's if you have been to Borobudur in Indonesia, and that's absolutely stunning. And you go to Kesaria, you can see parallels in the way they are built, which is really amazing considering that they were built probably a few hundred years apart and a few thousand miles apart.
6,500 kilometers apart.
Yeah,
which is kind of like
Google.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. So there's lots going on in Bihar. An interesting spot for sure. So I think that's it for this episode. You can check out more on our website. We are at www.rediscoveryproject.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. Like we mentioned, we've got a guide for Bodh Gaya, so you can look into that. And I think our travel tip for this week.
So our travel tip for this week is, yes, if you want to go to Bihar, winters are better because weather is better. But you can also, along with Bodh Gaya and the Buddhist circuit and Madhubani, you can also sort of pair this with going to the Sonpur Mela, which happens around Kartik Purnima. So I think in this year it starts in mid-November or so. So it's a good time to go. And it's another really fascinating place to go to and visit.
It's quite a crazy Mela. It's a real Mela.
It's a Mela in terms of, a rural fair, but it's also an animal Mela. So it's a livestock Mela. You will find horses and buffaloes and the occasional elephant, being brought there. So it's a very interesting window into rural India.
Yeah.
Very fun. I mean, we went there, we saw like Jadugar shows. And
it was quite good, actually.
And they have this really random stuff where they'll have these women on stage dancing and all.
Yeah, which is not for women.
Yeah, women cannot go in there.
Not allowed in there.
But they have a little bit of a circus happening.
Yeah, it's a Mela. It's cool.
Yeah,
yeah. So plan your. So the tip is coming back is to plan your whole thing around the Sonpur Mela and visit Bihar in the winter time.
Correct.
Yes, so that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening.
Happy travels.
Have you gotten yourself a gym membership and shown up only a few times? Are long working hours cutting your fitness goals short? How about you change things a little? Even a small effort can make a big difference. And I'll tell you how and what exactly. Hi guys, I'm Coach Urmi, and on the Kinetic Living podcast, you can look forward to some interesting stories of people who have changed the way they look at fitness after their kinetic journeys. Episodes out every Wednesday on the IVM app, website, and anywhere you get your podcast from.
How aware do you think you are of your laws and rights? Do you look up to laws when you are caught up in situations? Do you know what your rights are when you're stuck somewhere bad? Well, here's a show that can help you move an inch closer to being aware of what your rights are. Tune into Know Your Qanoon with me, Amber Rana. This is a podcast meant to answer all your law-related queries. Catch Know Your Qanoon every week on the IVM website or the app or anywhere you get your podcast from.